Yeah, my specialization in that disaster management is climate change adaptation.
Oh, wonderful.
So I go into very serious details of environmental science, but adaptation and sustainable development.
Yes.
Mm.
You see, if you when I hear that speculation now, I'll not only tie it to Kakamega, I'll give another appointment. You are the coordinator of Kakamega County, but I'll also appoint you to a national and to open you up for the nation, for the globe, so that you can share that knowledge also with the nation and the globe. I don't want to tie you just in Kakamega County as a coordinator because of the knowledge and skill that you have. So I've given an appointment of the county coordinator, Kakamega, but because of this vetting, also I realized that you are more powerful. You need to share with more people to open up for the club. So, are you ready if I give you another appointment beyond what you gave me?
It would be my pleasure because I appreciate the fact that most of the things that are happening today in the world, most of the disasters, as, as a result of unsustainable development practices. So, if people are able to be told that this that you're doing is not sustainable, it will impact negatively on your welfare on this globe, then indeed I would really appreciate working in that area of sustainable development and climate change.
Thank you, madam. There you are. We are looking into that because you are very useful to us. That's why we say that Spedvak is about consideration of all professionals, expertise, and the skill that people have. We want to make sure that the skill that you have are used. Instead of being wasted, they're narrowed down to one area, they must be used maximally. And now, what do you love most?
In terms of my profession or just generally,
Just generally, it's open for you.
I like people who have integrity. I don't like people who cheat. It hurts my soul and welfare when I realize I'm not dealing with somebody who is honest. Number two, those who destroy the environment. I'm so passionate about the environment. My area, my undergraduate was in biological sciences. Then I went further into environmental sciences and then disaster management.
Yes.
So I had the opportunity to look at how we destroy the environment without thinking of our future generations. So anytime I see, say, for instance, people just clearing forests, polluting the water bodies, it really depresses me. So those are some of the things I don't like and I'm so passionate about, and I want to repeat it for the 100th time: sustainable use of resources so that the future generations have the opportunity to also share what we are having today.
Thank you, madam. Actually, I've answered even the next question because it was about what is it that you don't like, but you've already answered that question. So I now move forward and say that why is it that you joined Spedvak? Why did you join Spedvak?
If you look at the objectives of Spedvak, they seem to resonate with what I believe in. You know, when you say security, safety, and especially at the grassroots, you're just talking about sustainability. You see, for instance, I want to use this example of the COVID-19 pandemic. They speculate that the virus, the SARS-CoV-2, originated from animals. In biology, we call it zoonosis, and crossed the species lines and went into humanity. If we played safe at that level, we could not have that virus cross from the species where it is resident to a species which is where it's not resident. Because if it is in the pangolins or in the birds, it doesn't cause that disease. But when it crossed over to humanity, it has caused devastation, and you can see where we are today. So I joined Spedvak because if you look at their objectives, their principles, their operation procedures, they seem to resonate so much with what I'm passionate about.
Thank you very much, madam. You have answered the question excellently. You have given more reason even that what I didn't even expect. Now, what value have you added to the association since you joined Spedvak?
At one time, I noted on our wall, we had issues concerning aspects of management. And I came in and said strongly that we needed to find a peaceful way of resolving that issue. Because Spedvak is bigger than individual interests. So what I came out with was to ensure that those who are actually in the conflict zone would be found in some forum where they would resolve that issue peacefully through arbitration.
Excellently, excellently. You are not limited in Spedvak. What plans do you have for the association? You know, we brought in Spedvak, voluntary, and you are not limited to anything. You are open to anything about humanity, serving the communities through community approach, bottom up. So, what are your plans?
If you look at the aims, objectives, and core values of Spedvak, it is an organization that would impact very, very greatly on humanity from the grassroots. And that means it begins at the bottom of the pyramid and picks the majority so that they participate in the attainment of the mandates of the organization. So when you have a majority of people involved, it means they possess it, and you can have and feel the impact in the majority of the people, such that you are not in the ivory tower and you are actually cascading down. It is actually escalating up. From the bottom, you want to get people to know as much as possible on their respective responsibilities in terms of ensuring that the world is more peaceful than what they found it. So when you have a majority, that's the thing I love about Spedvak. You want to be bottom up and not the other way around. In that way, everybody belongs to Spedvak, and by the end of the day, the impact will be greater than when it is the other way around.
Actually, madam, you have answered my question nicely. And the question I want to ask you already, you have answered it, but you can just maybe add value to it in that it's about what you already said. You found something happening on the wall and you addressed it. So I'm asking like this, how will you unite members of the association?
Now, that I'm about to say comes from my experience as a day administrator at a very senior level in some organization, and at the same time borrowing from my profession as a disaster manager. There are no problems that are unsurmountable. All problems can be surmounted. It is possible to resolve any kind of conflict existing between an individual and individual, community and community, country and country. As I talk today, you saw what the G7 have discussed in London. You've seen how we are resolving global issues. What is important, Chairman, is bring all those who are warring on a round table discussion. Listen to all their problems. Give them that empathy. Let them understand that you're actually listening to them. And if you have the requisite information, you pass that information to everybody. Dissemination of information is very important, so that people know that when you do this, the consequences are this. When you don't do this, the consequences are also this. So when people are empowered with information, what we believe in is they make informed decisions. And they cannot make those informed decisions on their own. They must be on a round table where they are discussing openly, candidly, and so they are part of the solution. But you can never say, I have solved it, when you're doing it outside of their sphere. They must be part of the solution. And often you'll always say, what do you think about it as you? He came to your home and picked your goat in the night. And you, why did you go to his home to pick his goat? and they'll tell you, I slept hungry, there was no food. But if you went to actually cut the grass for him, don't you think he would give you the 200 shillings instead of stealing the goat? He said, yes, tomorrow don't steal the goat. Go and cut the grass or the dig for him, and they'll give you that 500. So you see, you are involving all of them. You have disseminated the information that is correct. They are informed. You have arrived at solutions using them. And in that way, you run a group very peacefully. The group dynamics demand that you listen even to the chameleon that is always crying, to the frog that is always making noise in the water. You know, they say people in those groups are examples. They use animals to use as examples. There are some who are always complaining like chameleons. Others who are just groaning like, and so on and so forth. So you must listen to all of them and arrive at solutions using those warring parties after you have endowed them, after you have empowered them with information.
Actually, you have exhausted that question. Since I started interviewing candidates, I've never gotten that answer. You have put it correctly. I've gotten answers, but they were not with those stakes. So, madam, you have asked with the knowledge, and I believe you are very great asset to the association. Will make use of you. Now, how will you support humanity and vulnerable groups?
How will I
support humanity and vulnerable groups? Here in the card we are talking about, this disaster, and you realize that there are people in the community who need assistance in different classes, individual, groups, institutions. So how will you support such people?
You see, the needs of different groups vary depending on the kind of community you're referring to. For instance, if we talk about the northeastern, you're talking about Mombasa, for example, coast, or Turkana, or western, their needs are very different. So one thing that is very important is that you will find ways and means of ensuring that you identify the needs of these communities, and if it's possible, involve them in income generating activities within the communities. Today I was watching news on BBC in South Africa, and I saw a whole community is involved in just using a simple hoe, inaitwa jembe kwa Kiswahili, to dig minerals out of a very big village area, very expansive area. And they have discovered a huge chunk of diamond, and they are so much in shock. Not this deep whatever mining, no, just surface mining. And they've come together to do that work, and they're wondering what will they do with a huge chunk of diamond, which is worth millions and millions of South African rands. So you see, in this community, you tell them what are the shortfalls in this community. They have no water. Hakuna maji hapo pale. So they were told, we will dig and sink water for everybody. So what I'm saying is that you'll identify the needs of that community, involve them in income generating activities so that they are able to do what? To address their needs. Because always, very often, my dears, it's the issue of poverty that brings in a lot of conflict. Even in this case, I'm talking about cattle hustling. It is poverty between the Turkana. If there's a Turkana here, please, I do that with a lot of novelty. Between the Turkana and the Kayos and the Marakwets. They do it because they lack food. They are poor. So the reason is because they want help. So can they be involved in income generating activities such that instead of going to steal that goat, they can actually create a market where everybody can breed a goat in their home and sell, and they get something. So basically, to answer your question, it is very important that you create income generating activities based on the communal needs. In that way, you'll have addressed the people. I went for a function in a university, our branch in Turkana. And that branch had sunk water in the university, large volumes of water. But the community around didn't have water. There was no water in the whole community, almost hundreds of kilometers. So these people would come and stand at the gate and ask the people inside the compound, please help us with water. Please help us with water. And the university would say, but we sank this borehole or this well, it's very deep and can supply a large volume of the whatever, the area, for our use, not you. And so when I went there and I said, look here, they have a genuine problem. There is no water. Is it possible to inform the county leadership to do the same in their communities? And indeed it was done, and that is a way of solving a very, very serious problem in that community. Now they are now selling water. Those people are now selling water to respectively. Those who are able to have small outlets are now selling water. So that is a communal solution solved by in the community through income generating activities. Number two, empower people with knowledge. They say when you are knowledgeable, you are not a slave. Knowledge liberates. You are a very free person when you have knowledge. You'll see opportunities which nobody is seeing. You'll pass a point and say, these people work here, and there seems to be no hotel here where they can buy their tea from. And you'll put a hotel there. Why? Because that knowledge that you have has enabled you to see that opportunity in that area. You'll see a river that is flooding every year. And you'll say, but if we did some planting of some certain crops here and divert this water, there'll be no flooding and there'll be food. So knowledge is very important and enables people to make informed decisions. So two, empower people with knowledge. It is this knowledge that will enable them to go into IGUs. And that is, there are very many ways of doing it.
Thank you, Madam. You have exhaustively answered the question. Now, are you willing to serve as a volunteer?
At this age in my life, by then my baby is I'm 60 years and above. That is my baby. Don't look at him twice. At this age in life, I'm very certain I've had quite a lot. I would be willing to serve as a volunteer for as long as certain basic activities are attended to. For instance, you would not expect, for example, maybe a salary. But if you have to be transported to Cairo, therefore I will need to. So I have no problem. In principle, it is possible.
Thank you, Madam. Surely you have answered the questions exhaustively, and a rare opportunity to hear that you said you're 60 years. And actually, I'm happy to hear that, because many people, especially gender in women, they would like not to say disclose their age. Myself, Pius Masai, I retired at 55 years. I'm now approaching 58. I'm proud of myself because I still run 100 meters, 200 meters. I'm not 30s or 40s the way you think. I'm now approaching 58 and I'm proud of my age. So talking about age also is very important, because it tells people that come, join us. Don't stay there saying that you will stay there, because you cannot stay there forever. It's very important that every age is respected, the ability is still there, and still be valid at any age, so long as you make yourself valid. Thank you, Madam. Another question now. Where will you get your resources? I know it has no single answer, but where will you get your resources?
In respect of what?
In terms of serving the communities, assisting the vulnerable groups, maybe attending to disasters, how will you get resources?
I've mentioned in my earlier preliminary remarks
Yes.
that we will need to go into serious income generating activities.
Wonderful.
So if you begin with that kind of approach,
Yes.
you must have what we call seed investment to initiate the project.
Yes.
And once you go into the commencement of projects that you actually planted the seed,
Yes.
you have to find ways and means of sustainability.
Correct.
So that's why I'm proposing that if there were some seed resources where you can invest, you will encourage the communal activities to be such that they are income generating and hence sustainable.
Actually, you've handled this question very well. And just to remind you that as you have handled that question, I appreciate it. And the most important thing is that you yourself, you are the resource number one. Availing yourself, your time, you are a resource. And that's why Spedvak come out with this arrangement, is that appreciating that the civilian have more resources than even the government. You see, the civilians are millions, billions of population. They have everything. So your resource, my resource, and another resource from somewhere will support someone somewhere to manage out of a situation. So when we are assisting people, we are not limited. The most important thing is management by objectives. If you manage by objective, I being there, you being there, when you need another person, is an objective created, we'll create that person to come. So the way you've just answered, we are not limited to anything, we are powerful. So civilian have resources. Government just comes in to support. So as you said, also in terms of facilitation, we are looking forward that using available resources, we facilitate each other. If there are some allowances also through arrangement, it's important that we be facilitated, and it's possible because the way we've said already before, this bottom-up approach, the work is done in the communities, but the supervisors must be facilitated. The monitors must be facilitated so that they ensure that what is being done down there in the community is about what was planned for. If we leave it also just themselves, it will not be done. So it's important that you need to be facilitated to supervise. Thank you very much for that answer. Now, where will you get, how will you handle lives? Why? Because you'll be handling life in matter of people wanting support, people are being involved in incidents. Then how will you handle this life?
Now we have what we call the spiritual body, the physical body, and the mental body. And conflict or disaster impact on all those three. So you have this person who has gone through depression, meaning the mental body is badly damaged. Surely, if there was a spiritual approach to arbitration or resolving the issue, the better. Because we know most people will listen to their pastors, they will listen to their caddies, they will listen to their religious leaders. That is very, very important. So in that way, you can resolve issues of spirituality using religious organizations. If there are issues of physical bodies, of course, you'll always encourage people to get to what? To hospitals and get that help. It is equally good to get that help in hospitals, mental problems. So, really, solutions can come from within the home, the house, the church, the mosque, the community. Once more, we have, for example, village elders in the villages where when they come together, there are power to reckon. Their word is final. That huyu mtoto wa fulani ndiye aliiba, mlete hapa. Then they deal with that person in those courts and actually resolve those issues. So there are many approaches you can use to resolve issues of humanity, and they may depend on scenarios that unfold, dependent on that. I've always quoted this thing that depresses me so much. When this community arrives in this community and does what we call steal livestock. These people, if you remember that mama called Professor Wangari Maathai,
Yes.
she said one day when she was receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in Switzerland in 2000 and was it 5 or so, that when you see people fighting, when you see conflict in communities, know they are fighting over resources. I've always quoted that.
Sure.
Because it really informs the kind of decisions I do. People fight because of resources. Hatuna maji, hakuna ng'ombe, hakuna stima, hakuna. You can think of those at all levels. They are not able to give me political leadership. I'm not the president. I'm not the prime minister. Think about them, not in a confinement, but outside the box, they say. So that you see, why is Dr. X saying this? Or why is that governor saying this? Why is that MP saying this? They are talking about resources. So even when you hear about corruption, they are talking about resources. So very, very important that you provide resources for people so that you resolve conflict in the community. And again, I want to emphasize the fact that the only way of providing those resources in communities is empowerment. financial empowerment, educational empowerment, and so on and so forth. In that way, you will have resolved issues. If you are very current with what is happening in Nigeria today, it has become so normal for people to arrive in Lurambi Primary, pick 350 girls, put on a lorry, and disappear with them. And nobody can tell where 350 Chibuku girls have gone. They arrive in a madrasa school in a mosque in Kano, and they pick 500 students, and nobody knows where they have gone. Is that possible? No. It just means they are all working together. Because by the time you carry 500 students, even if it is a lorry, you need 10 lorries. So they are fighting over resources, and the only solution they always talk about is ransom. Out of these 500 students, we need a ransom of these nairas. They call them Nigerian nairas, and they're given. So it is not something that an individual is doing. It is everybody, including those policemen who are guarding the streets, the army that is doing what? Because you can never succeed with such a huge number of students alone. So people fight because of lack of resources. And once you provide resources, the world will be as peaceful as heaven. And that's why we should strive as disaster managers to provide ways and means of ensuring that everybody has some resource. Wewe huwezi lala njaa, utaiba ile kuku ya jirani yako. Because uliona ikitembea nje. Na umelala njaa siku 3, 4, 5. Surely you will time that kuku and take it. Because you are not empowered in terms of education, in terms of skills to get your own kuku, in terms of many other things. Empowerment of skills, because you have the knowledge that will make you open that kiosk there, and you don't go and steal that kuku from your neighbor, that banana from your neighbor.
Actually, madam, you have really explained well, and for viewers, I believe they'll be happy because there is a lesson point to many of us in terms of the explanation you gave. And I would like you now to explain to us how will you handle property and environment. I remember being an incident commander and disaster manager in this country. I've been involved in more incidents as incident commander. Especially when I was in Langata, I built for property from the community. I got overwhelming resources, lorries, containers of blankets, of maize, of bread, name it. And we filled the classrooms just addressing a number of people that were holding the camp. And it's a challenge. So it is important for you to understand that now that you are the coordinator of Kakamega County, and you have the power, because we are giving another letter, will be beyond that. How will you be handling property? Because people trust you in property. And that's why we say that we don't thieves in Spedvak. If you are here that you want money, you want property, don't come for us, because we want to trust you with people's property, because there's really an entity, and I'm telling you for free, have resources and ready. Like now I'm saying now, I've been given resources which are in 5 centers, one in Mombasa, one in Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu, that's Meru, and I've said that this need to be disputed in a more organized manner through management by objectives. How will you be managing resources and environment?
First of all, you can manage the resources by keeping proper records of whatever resources you have. It can be in terms of consumable resources, they can be expendable resources, or permanent resources. Like this furniture is permanent, like the blankets you use to wipe there is expendables, and consumables could be food. So, in disaster management, you can receive the 3 categories of resources: consumables, expendables, and permanent. This building is permanent. Ensure that the records exist of what you have. In that management, we call them ledgers. A ledger must exist for all the wheelbarrows, all the cars, all the houses, all the stores that exist under Spedvak. So as you know, in Mombasa, we built a store, and this warehouse store has 4 containers. In these containers, we have this is records. Number 2, ensure that if you were to distribute these resources, for instance, Budalangi floods and people have been displaced, and you have to give them some food from Oxfam. How are you going to do it? Involve local leaders. They are very important. We call them in Luya Riguru. Those people are the ones at the grassroots. After all, we've said we're beginning from the pyramid and we taper up there. Ensure you involve them, and if they're not the type you can involve, you can get some prominent person in that village. Because, you know, with corruption, I told you as a person, I like people of integrity. And I don't like working with people who don't have integrity. Because I believe that it is right to do the right thing at the right time. Of course, it's not right. The other way around is not possible. It's not right. So, if you involve leaders of integrity in the processes of using resources of Spedvak with the accompanying proper records, I want to assure you, you'll go very far. But today, my heart laments. I cry, they say, cry the beloved country. I used to read a book like that in African Reader series. Because every other person has lost integrity. And even that Rikuru in the village, when you tell him these 100 bags of maize for the Budalangi displaced, you may find that maize will not get to the displaced persons. So it's very hard, but you try to the best of your ability to do the accounting of the resources that you have through record taking.
Thank you very much. Now, you have found that well. Now, through that question, I realized that through my experience, I noticed that people are fond of receiving resources from other people who are donors, and they are not doing what you call proper documenting, storage, and even delivering to the right people, whereby they get those resources, and some are opportunists, some have different interests in terms of doing that. And I've decided and directed that in Spedvak, we shall be doing two things. One, advance donations through our senders, so that if you have something they want to donate, is within those logistics centers, within all regions. And if people require those items, they need to do what we call request bottom up. And in seconds,